3, 2, 1, go.
Day 2 of the first regional competition brought pain and triumph. The heavy dumbbell snatch delivered amazing performances from an elite few while leaving the masses devastated in its wake. The day was capped by a brutal beatdown of 360 repetitions. Epic performances, epic failures, epic effort. Day 2 had it all. The results, the drama, the stories. The CrossFit Games Update Show is next.
CrossFitters, welcome to the CrossFit Games Update Show. It's Saturday, April 28th, and day 2 is now in the bag. I'm Rory McKernan, joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Pat Sherwood.
That was a lot, but thank you.
Day 2 brought the heat, crazy performances, and some real surprises. We're going to take a look at these events. Pat, 2 more tests. We've got, again, we started in the morning with a shorter test. It looked to be extremely heavy, didn't play out that way. And then in the afternoon, you've got this volume, crazy volume, hundreds and hundreds of reps of every single movement. So talk to me about this. Again, we see this crazy variation, but not a whole big shift up in the leaderboard.
Yeah, and I love the fact that there's not a big shift in the leaderboard, especially in the individual side of the house. And we can start to ask the question, why aren't the names shifting a lot? Because these guys, these CrossFitters, guys and ladies, they are good at everything that we throw at them. Short, long, doesn't matter, because they're not training for a specific event. They're training for everything. They're training for our definition of fitness, and they're excelling at it.
Yeah, you mentioned that when these things come out on paper, people want to pick them apart and they want to latch onto one thing. The first thing that we see was a 100-pound dumbbell snatch, and people say, this is a strongman's event, this is a big guy's event. It's not how it played out. Lucas Parker in Canada West, best time of the day, and he's a mid-sized athlete, 180 pounds, about 5'7", 5'8", and so how do we explain that?
Yeah, well, getting back to what you stated previously a little bit, I think what people do erroneously when they look at these workouts that first come out is they try to classically pick them apart like their exercise science or physiology book says that they should. Right. This is going to test my creatine phosphate pathway, and this is going to go something else, and they try to, it's not, if you're training for that, you're going to fail, because what we're testing for and what our athletes are training for is, we're not testing for pathways, we're not testing for certain domains, we're doing everything from short to medium to long to very long, from body weight to light to moderate to heavy to extremely heavy, slow lifts, fast lifts, low reps, high reps. They get ready for it all. That's what we're testing them on, and that's our definition of fitness, work capacity across broad time modal domains.
Right, and just day 2 is indicative of that, right? Because then we after we had the heavy dumbbell snatch, we right. move on, which actually turned into a sprint. We move on, and now there's this crazy volume, and it wasn't just the small guys who had hundreds of pull-ups under their belt that were doing well at that. We saw some big folks who were actually performing extremely well.
Yes, so there was a 22-minute, cap on event 4. And a lot of people struggle just to do all the work in that time cap, but we saw some very, again, big guys. It's not a little guy workout, even though it's high volume. Asia Bartow made the time cap. He's 6'5". Brandon Phillips did it in like 18 minutes and 7 seconds. He's 215 pounds.
Talk about my girl, Azadeh Burman.
Yeah, Azadeh Burman, Fortunato out of the southeast, they're all crushing this thing, and they're all, Azadeh Burman is what, 5'10", right. 155 pounds? So it's not a little person, it's not a big person, it's the fittest athletes who are rising to the top.
Right. With the times that you saw in event number 3, the dumbbell snatch, can you still call that heavy if somebody's doing it in sub 4? I mean, 3 minutes and 41 seconds?
Well, a 100-pound dumbbell is heavy. Right, so that certainly it's a heavy weight, but they made it look light. And kind of getting back to what we talked about yesterday, the good, the great, and the elite, it was a struggle for the great athletes out there. The dumbbells on the ground, there's breaks being taken, the sprint turned into a jog. But the elite individuals that will be going on to the games, just touch and goes, switching hands. The sprint was a legitimate sprint, photo finish to the end. These are the people that we're going to see in Carson.
It was never, can you do the work for the top athletes? It was how fast are you going to do the work to separate yourself. Brandon Phillips, you mentioned him. He got one of the fastest times of the day and had to do an additional sprint.
Yes, I mean, he would have been sub 4. He was just above 4 minutes with doing an extra sprint. 215 pounds, so you're like, oh, well, of course, he's a big, strong guy. That makes sense. But yeah, he did 18:07 on event 4, and then rewind for this 215-pounder to the open, gets 130 burpees. Again, it doesn't matter what we throw at these guys. They're CrossFitters. They're going to excel at it.
Right, perfect. So you make a great point. You have to be good at everything, so long as it's a good test of fitness. So that takes me to my next point. There was some volatility, some shakeups in the team leaderboard. Now, no team, any region finished workout number 4. Still a good test?
Absolutely, and here's why. The mere fact that the teams that we've seen thus far do event 4 haven't completed all the work in the time cut doesn't negate the effectiveness of the test. So none of them finished in that 25-minute cap. All the teams did as much work as they could in that cap, and teams were ranked based upon who did the most work. And so we still had a fair ranking based upon fitness levels of the team, so it accomplished its goal perfectly.
You still see the separation. So what's the deal? Is it because it's that hard, or what made that event such a bear?
Well, there's a heck of a lot of repetitions in it, and we just can't get around saying that for sure. Also, like I said, down the road we may see teams execute it in the time, but there were so many transitions in that workout. There was so much strategy going on for teams, much more than on day 1. Team Diane had a lot of strategy, but it can't compare to event 4. That I think is just teams paid the price. Little inefficiencies added up when you have tons and tons and tons of transitions over a workout that lasts almost 30 minutes.
Yeah, so based upon what we've seen so far, 2 more tests tomorrow. They're going to be, again, very dramatically. A brutal long workout in the afternoon, but in the morning you have the snatch ladder. And if day 1 and 2 are any indication, we're going to see these same athletes go into the games.
We're going to see the same athletes again, and I think the indication is pretty strong that these people have solidified their spots, established competency across a broad test of skills. And on the team side of the house, the demand for a solid captain to make good calls and team strategy isn't going away tomorrow. There's a whole lot of stuff going on from the snatch event to the long, grueling event 6.
But anything can happen. Enough talk. Let's get to the action. When we come back, we'll have the top 10 from day 2.
GNC is proud to be the official vitamin and sports nutrition retailer of the CrossFit Games. GNC, live well.
Okay, Rachel, you've had a terrific game so far, really tough competition, but where you're really excelling is the Olympic lifts. What's your background with regards to Olympic lifts?
I've been focusing on a little bit of Olympic lifting with my past year's training, and before that I did a lot of gymnastics and circus stuff.
Circus stuff?
Yes.
So what was your athletic background before coming to CrossFit?
Well, I did circus when I was in my teens and in high school with the Underground Circus in Vancouver, and I focused mainly on hand balancing and contortion when I was there.
Okay, well show us what you did before you got to CrossFit.
Okay, I'll give you a little sample. You take my shoes off.
That's pretty good, but I didn't say 3, 2, 1, go.
Was I supposed to wait?
Thanks so much, and good luck tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back. So much excitement, so much to tell about the day from every single region. We've dialed it down into the CrossFit Games update top 10. Pat, with no further ado, number 10.
Coming in at number 10, you can't blame the youth. Carissa Rempel not only qualified for the Canada West Regionals, but she placed in the top 20 in each event. This 15-year-old ex-gymnast turned to CrossFit only 1 year ago after an injury ended her gymnastics career. A solid performance from an athlete who can't even drive herself to the venue legally is astounding, and Rempel will be the future of the individual women's competition in Canada West.
Number 9, easy come, easy go. Jared Davis prevailed in last year's regionals, winning the men's Southeast competition after a poor open finish. The Games vet went to this year's Southeast Regional with hopes of repeating his performance from last year, making it back to the Games and competing with the top dogs once again. After last year's 22nd place finish at the Games, Davis believed that this year he was a true contender. But after a disappointing performance in Event 4, he's left in 21st place in the region with his chance of returning to the Games seemingly out of reach.
Coming in at number 8, Event 4 has a daddy, and his name is Guido. In Event 4, Guido Trinidad, competing in the Southeast region, threw down an astounding time of 15:56. that is almost 3 minutes faster than the top finishers in the weekend's other regions. Trinidad comes from a football background, including a professional stint in NFL Europe. Ironically, Trinidad dominated Event 4, an endurance-based workout, and performed poorly in Event 3, despite a self-proclaimed strength bias. Trinidad enters tomorrow's race for Carson in 5th place, 6 points out from 3rd.
Number 7, the battle for Vancouver. The Canada West region fields just 2 spots to the CrossFit Games in July. 6 teams sit within 7 points of the top spot. It's the tightest race of the weekend. Traditionally, CrossFit Tyrannus, who was 3rd at last year's games, has dominated this region, and they look to do the same this year with 2 first-place finishes and 1 second-place finish. But a 14th place finish on Event 2 put them in the hole and opened up the field. CrossFit Fraser Valley Centaurs currently occupies the number 1 spot, but they're separated from 5 hungry challengers by a mere 7 points. 2 events remain tomorrow to determine who goes to Carson in July and who's going to be at home dreaming about it.
Number 6, welcome to the big leagues. Emily Bridgers came into the regionals as the Southeast region's Open Cinderella story. The Dark Horse swept the Open with a 30-point lead in her region, on her way to a 4th place finish worldwide. This weekend, the Cinderella came up hard against the reality of CrossFit big leagues. Bridgers came into day 2 in 7th place, knowing that today she had to move up. A big 3rd place finish on Event 4 proved Bridgers means business and moved the CrossFit Decatur athlete into 5th place and striking distance for a game spot. By her own admission, the snatch ladder of Event 5 will not play to the former gymnast's strengths, but the petite 24-year-old knows that day 3 is do or die time.
Number 5, it was well worth the trip. The stands at the regional competitions have been packed full of spectators. They've been loud and vocal, cheering, showing their love for their favorite athletes. Signs and banners from homemade to professionally printed decorate the stands, and vuvuzelas have even been spotted. Who would have thought? The crowd support the athletes, they're urging them on to greater performances. Only a few spots are up for grabs in each region, so the crowds are going nuts, pushing these athletes harder to go faster. At the regions, being a spectator means being just as dedicated as the athletes. 50 people from CrossFit Ramsey of Calgary, Canada, traversed all across Canada in a bus to reach the Canada West Regional.
Number 4, you can't say that it's heavy anymore. Talking about Event 3, dumbbell snatches and sprints. This generated more buzz than any of the other 5 workouts. This movement took everyone by surprise and caused a run at sporting goods stores around the globe. The grumbling about this event being too heavy was put to rest, and by Canada no less. Games veterans Lucas Parker and Jeremy Meredith manhandled the weight and turned this event into a sprint, which is what it was intended for. Parker, the Wolfman, finished in a stunning 340 and came in hot for a dramatic finish. Meredith was a hair behind at 342. The Superman out of the South Central region, Paul Smith, an 8-year veteran of the NFL, had the 3rd fastest time at 4:01. Canadian Jeremy Edwards was just seconds behind at 4:03.
Number 3, CrossFit Dallas Central raises the bar. The weekend's team competition produced a standout in CrossFit Dallas Central. Dallas Central maintains a dominating 10-point lead over 2nd place. After a shaky start on Event 1, they refocused, throwing down a world record performance on Event 2. Then they did it again. And again. Can you say three-peat? A 13th place finish at last year's games whetted their appetite for victory at the big show, and their standout performance this weekend reflects a year of hard and smart training.
Coming in at number 2, Team Event 4 devastated the field. The time cap and penalty rules of Event 4 have effectively turned it into an AMRAP for the teams who tackled this unforgiving workout today. A total of 900 repetitions between 4 team members inside a 25-minute time cap was highly complicated by a strict 1-minute timeout penalty for each drop bar. Surprisingly, not a single team among the 3 regions managed to complete the workout in the required time, adding volumes to each team's score as every uncompleted repetition equaled 1 second of additional time. We're going to have to see if any teams are going to slay this beast within the time cap.
Remember yesterday when you said that the team events were easy and fun?
Nope.
Number 1, see you in Carson, Azadeh. There is one athlete clearly dominating this weekend's regional, and it is Azadeh Bourmond of the South Central Regional. Bourmond missed the games of Earth last year by 3 places. This year she's leaving nothing to chance. Bormonda, former collegiate volleyball player, was second on Diane with 2:32. Then she had the fastest time thus far in the world on event 2 with 12:07. She repeated that feat with the dumbbell snatches in event 3, a time of 5:13. Then she went on again to sweep the Southeast region in event 4 with a time of 19:50. She currently sits in first place not just in her region, but in the world, having amassed only 5 points over 4 competitions. I'm not great at math, but I think that's pretty good.
She'll do all right tomorrow.
There's plenty more action to come. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
The third weekend of regionals kicks off Friday, May 11th. The best from Central East, Southern California, Canada East, and Latin America will be tested against the punishment of the regional workouts. For the first time in history, 2 Games champions, Rich Froning and Graham Holmberg, will battle at the regional level. Games veterans Dan Bailey and Nick Uranker finished the Open in the top 3, and you can never count out Joe Weigel, who took 15th at the Games last year. Lindsay Smith has moved to the Central East and has already made her presence known. She ended the Open in second, sandwiched between Julie Boucher, currently second in the world, and Michelle Kinney. SoCal is to the women's competition what the Southwest is to the men's. 3 spots to the Games will be clawed for by 5 veteran Games competitors: Kristen Clever, Rebecca Voigt, Lindsay Valenzuela, and Katie Hogan, along with Valerie Vobril, who took 3rd in 2010. Andrea Ager and Madeline Curley are already making waves. Kenneth Leverich has stepped up to take Bridges' place. 42-year-old Bill Grundler is 4th in the region. Jeremy Kinnick and John Parra each holding on to the top 10 in the region. Moving on to the Great White North, Albert Dominic LaRouche is now the favorite. Peter DeMoore finished 4th at the 2011 regional and finished 2nd at the 2012 Open. Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet, 8th place in the 2011 Games, is the big name here. But Michelle Latondra, 25th from last year, beat her on 2 of the Open workouts. International action continues in Latin America, where it's Orlando Trejo's regional to lose. He may be the first Latin American to be competitive on the world stage, finishing the Open in 5th worldwide. Teresa Barnett dominated the region last year. This year, she finished the Open in 5th. All of the action, highlights, and updates can be found on games.crossfit.com.
Welcome back. It's time now that we offer you our opinions on what athletes are actually going to make it to the CrossFit Games. It's a day early. There's a saying about opinions and everyone having one.
Or somebody's an asshole, but something like that.
Let's not split hairs.
Right.
But we here at the Update Show are professionals. Our opinions are informed. They carry the weight of experience, intelligence, keen observation. Hey, we know what we're talking about.
Right, so basically, we're just completely shooting from the hip, going bright guard.
That's the other way to do it. Let's start with the Southeast men's division. Who's going?
All right, here we go. Chase Daniels, number 1. Number 2, Brandon Phillips. Can't argue against him, okay? He's one of the strongest guys down there. 265 snatch. We're snatching in the morning. And number 3, Dominic Marisi.
I can and I will argue against him.
Okay.
Love him. But Chase Daniels, yes. And your 3rd place finisher, Marici, yes. But you can't count out my boy Hernandez. Irving Hernandez, best time in the world on Diane. The kid, event number 6 is made for him. He's going to the Games this year. Talk about the women.
Okay, fine. Number 1, Telena Fortunato. Number 2, Jamie Gold. And number 3, Shayna Alverson. 3-year Games competitor. She knows what it takes to compete, to get to the Games. She's going to do it tomorrow.
Strong observations, my friend. Yes to number 1, Telena Fortunato. She has it on lock. Jamie Gold will take a spot as well. However, and I hate to do this, but Shayna Alverson is not going to take that 3rd spot. She trails Leah Pulaski by 4 points. They're both very well-rounded athletes. They're both going to do well on the final day. However, Pulaski is going to take that spot to the Games. So tell me about teams.
Okay, fine. Teams. Number 1, CrossFit Atlanta, being led by Mike G. Cannot argue against that. Number 2, CrossFit Adrenaline. And number 3, Vita Brickle.
Atlanta, no doubt about it. Vita Brickle, no doubt about it. However,
where's the doubt?
Why can't we keep a team named Cock Diesel? You got to put him in there. So Cock Diesel is my 3rd choice.
I will not argue against anything named that.
I'm going to start now with the South Central men. And my boy, Asia Barto, tomorrow, mark my words, will march through every single bar of the snatch ladder. He's going to take the 1st spot to the CrossFit Games, followed by Brian Diaz, Jason Hagen. What?
All right, first of all, love Asia Barto. Talked to him on the phone, and he said just that. So you might be right there. But my number 1, Brian Diaz. Number 2, Asia Barto. And number 3, Paul Smith. How can you overlook this guy? 8 years in the NFL. He's one of the strongest athletes out there. And tomorrow, heavy deads, heavy snatches.
Bartow Babe Ruthed it. He called the shot.
He did.
That's so solid.
Point the whole nine.
Asia Bartow calling his own shot. Let's move on to the ladies where Azadeh Miravand, I mean, she might make it to the games after having a combined 5 points after 4 events. Whitney Welsh, the games veteran's also going to make it back in. And then the SoCal transplant Ingrid Cantola. This young lady swept the 2010 sectionals in Southern California, then had open heart surgery. Now she's back and she's kicking ass.
You're close. You're close in this one. I'm not crazy, so I'm not going to argue against your number one. My number one as well, Azadeh Miravand. She is destroying it. But number two, Candice Ruiz, 340-pound deadlift. Again, one of the strongest athletes out there, and tomorrow's going to demand that. Number three, Karen Pierce.
Okay, let's move on to the teams. I think we can agree that Dallas Central, just because they're my boys and I like them, but they're dominating, they're ahead by 10 points, followed closely by Bayou City, and then the team from CrossFit Central, who's now sporting Carrie Kepler, the individual athlete who's come onto the team.
Yes, but no. Ooh. Here are my three, okay? Number one, Dallas Central. Number two, Bayou City CrossFit. And number three, CrossFit Cedar Park. They started slow, but they caught their momentum. It's going to carry them through tomorrow. We're going to see them at the games.
Okay, then fine. Time to move on to Canada West men, the Great White North. Who are your picks?
All right, men. Number one, Lucas Parker. And number two, Jeremy Meredith. They killed it today.
They did, actually. They set the fastest times on the dumbbell snatch. Very amazing to watch. So I'll give you Lucas Parker, the Teen Wolf. He can have the top spot. However, Meredith is not going to hold on last year. He actually had a lot of trouble on day 3. I think the same thing is going to happen. History repeats itself, but this time Tyson Takasaki will take the second spot to the games. Tell me about the women.
How dare you. Women's side of the house, number one, Emily Beers. She is a strong athlete. That's been my kind of signature little characteristic with all these people, and she's going to do it tomorrow. And number two, what goes with beer? Pie. Angie, pie. Number two.
You're absolutely right, except I think that you do your pie before your beer.
Okay, well, that'll work.
It's a win. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win situation.
Either way that you slice it up. Let's talk about the teams in Canada West.
Okay, Canada West, number one, CrossFit Fraser Valley, and number two, CrossFit AI. They won event 3. You see my theme, explosive power. Tomorrow's coming, event 5. Go ahead.
CrossFit Fraser Valley, fine. However, you're counting out the third place finishers from the CrossFit Games, not from the regional, the CrossFit Games. So CrossFit Tyrannus will certainly take a spot to the CrossFit Games. You're tripping if you say otherwise. Thank you all for joining us in another romp through the CrossFit Games regional competitions. The regionals continue tomorrow with the final 2 events. Both are key. Cuts are going to be made after event 5. The snatch ladder and double unders, and the game's berth are going to be decided at the end of tomorrow. We'll know who's going to the Home Depot Center in July. For Pat and the whole Update crew, I'm Rory McKernan saying, see you tomorrow.